There is a rhythm to the universe, quiet but undeniable, a cadence woven into the way stars are born, how oceans breathe, and how hearts long for connection. We are not separate from this rhythm. We are it. As women, we carry within us an ancient intelligence, a kind of grace not taught but remembered. The way we speak, hold silence, smile in stillness, or walk away without a word. These are not just behaviors. They are echoes of something older, something sacred. Men don't just notice these things, and they're drawn to them like rivers pulled toward the sea, not knowing why, only that it feels like home. And perhaps that is the point, not to try, but to be. Because the most magnetic woman is not performing. She is listening to life, to spirit, to herself. In this great unfolding, you are never meant to chase or prove. You are meant to remember. You are the music he's been aching to hear. All right, let's talk about something that flips the script in every relationship dynamic. Something that, if you get it right, changes everything without you even having to say a word. Emotional confidence. I'm not talking about the kind of confidence that walks into a room and needs everyone to look. That's surface level stuff. I'm talking about something deeper, quieter, something that sits in your body like a knowing. It's the kind of confidence that doesn't shout, doesn't over-explain, and doesn't chase. It's the energy of someone who has nothing to prove because they already know who they are. Gotta care. Now listen, I've talked to thousands of people about relationships, dating, connection, and what really creates that spark we're all looking for. And here's what I've seen over and over again. The most magnetic people aren't always the loudest or the best looking or the most successful. They're the ones who are emotionally secure. They're not spinning in anxiety about whether someone likes them. They're not constantly calculating their every move. They're just in themselves, and men feel this deeply. When a woman is emotionally confident, it's like her energy says, I like who I am, and whether you like me or not doesn't change that. That kind of vibe, it's like a magnet to the masculine brain, because the truth is most men are not used to that. They're used to emotional overinvestment. They're used to overthinking, overtexting, overperforming. But when a woman stands still in her own value, no performing, no trying, he doesn't quite know why, but he leans in because he's not being pulled in by tactics. He's responding to truth. And here's what emotional confidence isn't. It's not pretending not to care. It's not aloofness. It's not a power play or a manipulation strategy. It's actually the opposite. It's care without attachment. It's presence without pressure. It's knowing your value so clearly that you don't need validation to reinforce it. You've seen this in action, haven't you? That woman who walks into a room and you can just feel that she knows who she is. She's not the loudest voice, but somehow she commands attention. She's not trying to get everyone to like her. And yet, people do. That's emotional confidence. She can be kind and warm and open. But if someone crosses a line, she'll walk away without drama. Not because she's cold, but because she respects herself too much to stay where she isn't valued. And here's something really important. Emotional confidence is not about being perfect. It's about being honest. It's being able to say, this is what I need, or that doesn't work for me, without collapsing in guilt or fear. It's about being grounded enough to express yourself without overthinking how someone's going to respond. You got to respond. You're not afraid of losing someone who isn't meant for you because you trust yourself enough to know that you'll be okay either way. And the crazy thing is, when you carry that kind of energy, people rise to meet you. That emotional steadiness becomes the space where real attraction grows. Because real attraction doesn't live in chaos. It lives in certainty. And when you're emotionally confident, you bring that certainty into the room. So how do you build that? How do you become that? You start by actually listening to yourself. You stop outsourcing your self-worth to how someone else is responding. You learn to validate your own experience. You create boundaries not as walls, but as doors that only open for what's aligned with your peace. You stop trying to control how you're perceived and instead focus on how you feel around them and when something feels off. You don't justify or explain it away. You trust the knowing in your gut and you act on it. Look, emotional confidence doesn't mean you don't feel nervous or insecure sometimes. It means those feelings don't run the show. It means you have a deeper voice in you, one that says, I got this, even when things are uncertain. And when you lead with that voice, people feel it. Men feel it. And it changes everything. Because the truth is, there's nothing more attractive than someone who's at home in themselves. That's the kind of energy that doesn't chase. It draws everything in. Let's talk about mystery. Yes, mystery. That word might make you think of games, or withholding, or playing hard to get. But I'm not talking about manipulation or strategy. I'm talking about something real. I'm talking about the kind of quiet power that lives in a woman who doesn't feel the need to give all of herself away up front. There's this idea floating around that in order to connect with someone, especially in the early stages, you have to open up everything, your history, your thoughts, your heart, your whole life story on the first or second date. But what if I told you that holding just a little bit back, not as a tactic, but as a form of self-respect, is one of the most magnetic things you can do? Because mystery isn't about being confusing. It's about being full of yourself in the best way. It's about having layers that unfold over time. When you live a rich inner life, when you're not looking for someone to fill you up or complete you, that fullness creates a kind of energetic intrigue. It invites curiosity. It signals that there's something there to discover, not because you're hiding, but because you're whole. And listen, men are hardwired to be curious, not just sexually, but emotionally and psychologically. Curiosity is how they connect. When everything is laid out instantly, when there's no space left to explore, something shuts off. It's like picking up a book and reading the ending first. It kills the experience. The journey is what makes it exciting. And that same idea applies to relationships. So when a woman lets the connection unfold naturally, without rushing to fill every silence or label every moment, that space becomes the most powerful part of the dynamic. It's where wonder lives. It's where the mind starts to engage. And when a man's mind is engaged, when he's drawn into a connection instead of being handed it, that's when it sticks. That's when it deepens. Now, let's be clear. Mystery doesn't mean playing it cool when you actually care. It doesn't mean pretending you're busy when you're not. That's not mystery. That's insecurity dressed up like confidence. True mystery is honest. It's, I don't need to share everything right now because this connection deserves time to grow. It's trusting the process instead of forcing the outcome. And there's something really empowering about knowing that you can be present and connected without feeling the need to be an open book. You can be open-hearted without handing someone the entire map to your soul on day one. You don't owe that to anyone. But honesty can exist with mystery. They're not opposites. They're allies. It's like music. The pauses between the notes are what make the melody interesting. If you just heard sound nonstop with no rhythm, no rest, no buildup, it would be noise. The same goes for emotional connection. When you allow space, when you don't rush, you're creating rhythm, you're inviting depth, you're letting the music play. And if you've ever felt the pressure to over-explain, to constantly reassure, to keep a man engaged by giving more and more of yourself, pause for a second. That pressure is not coming from truth. It's coming from fear. And you don't have to operate from fear anymore. You can choose to trust that who you are as you are is enough, and that the right person will be drawn to learn you, not consume you. Because here's the secret no one tells you. Men don't fall for the woman who gives everything away. They fall for the woman who invites them in slowly, deliberately, with presence. The woman who holds a little bit back, not because she's guarded, but because she honors herself enough to be choosy about what she shares when and with whom. That's the woman who becomes unforgettable. That's the woman who lingers in a man's mind long after the conversation ends. So if you're sitting there wondering whether you should say more, give more, prove more, stop. You don't need to. The right person will lean into the unknown parts of you with curiosity, not confusion. The right person won't need a download of your entire emotional resume to feel something real. They'll sense it in the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you stay present without trying too hard. And that's the gift of feminine mystery. It's not about hiding. It's about choosing. It's about pacing. It's about holding the deepest parts of you like they're sacred, not commodities. Because the most irresistible woman isn't the one who reveals everything. She's the one who doesn't need to. Let's take a moment and talk about something simple, but wildly powerful. Something so few people do well, yet it's one of the most attractive things you can offer another human being, presence. And I'm not talking about being physically in the room while your mind is somewhere else. I'm talking about real, anchored, fully attuned presence. That kind of rare, focused energy that makes someone feel like, for just a few minutes, the world got quiet and they were the only person that existed. You know what I mean, right? When you're with someone and they're not just waiting for their turn to speak or scrolling their phone or reacting to every notification buzzing in their pocket. No, they're locked in, they're with you. Their eyes say, I hear you. Their body language says, I'm not going anywhere. And their energy says, you matter. That kind of presence is rare. And because it's rare, it's irresistible. We're so distracted now. Think about it. People can't even sit through a 15-second video without swiping. So when you bring stillness, when you bring focus, when you're not looking for the next thing, but choosing to land in the now, you offer something most people didn't even realize they were starving for. And that's what makes it so powerful, especially in romantic dynamics. Because the truth is, most men are not used to being deeply seen. They're used to being evaluated, expected to perform, measured by what they do or what they offer. But when a woman sits across from him, not judging, not rushing, not trying to impress, but simply present with him, it disarms him. Presence says, you don't need to earn this moment. You already have it. And when a man feels that, he lets his guard down. He becomes more himself. He starts to feel, not because you pulled it out of him, but because you gave him the space where feeling was finally safe. You didn't interrupt. You didn't redirect the spotlight. You weren't planning what to say next. You just were there, and that presence becomes the foundation of something deeper, something lasting. It's the same reason we're drawn to certain people in our lives, those rare ones who make us feel calmer just by being around them. They don't say a lot. They don't try hard. But somehow, their presence is a relief. That's not an accident. That's intentional energy. That's someone who knows how to hold space. Now, this is where a lot of people get tripped up. They confuse presence with performance. They think they have to be constantly entertaining, overly engaged, animated, on, but presence isn't about performing. It's not about being impressive. It's about being attuned. It's about showing up as you are and letting that be enough. And here's the beautiful part. When you're present, you're also listening to yourself. You're paying attention to how you feel in the moment too. You're not just focused on impressing or connecting. You're noticing if this connection feels good to you. That's the double power of presence. It lets you see others more clearly and lets you see yourself. That's when you stop chasing chemistry that isn't mutual. That's when you stop confusing attention with value. You slow down. You breathe. You let the moment tell you the truth instead of trying to control the narrative. And if you've ever sat across from someone who's clearly not listening, just nodding while checking their phone or looking over your shoulder, you know how not being present makes you feel invisible, small, unimportant. That's not connection. That's convenient. And you deserve better than that. And so does the person sitting across from you. But here's where it gets even more interesting. When you offer presence, you set the tone. You're not reacting to their energy. You're leading with yours. You're saying, hey, this is how I move. This is the pace I live at. If you want to be here with me, slow down and meet me. And that shift, that invitation, it changes the entire vibe. Because a woman who is fully present is unforgettable. She's not loud. She doesn't have to be. Her energy speaks louder than words ever could. So if you want to be magnetic, don't perform. Don't overgive. Don't talk just to fill the silence. Sit in it. Breathe in it. Show up fully and mean it. Look someone in the eye and really see them. Listen not to respond, but to understand. Because in a world full of noise, presence is the loudest thing you can offer. Let's talk about something most people get completely backward when it comes to attraction and connection: vulnerability. Now, I know that word can make people squirm. It sounds soft, maybe even weak, especially if you've been hurt before. But I want you to hear me out, because this one right here, this is where real connection either happens or it doesn't. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's power, quiet power, the kind of power that says, "This is who I am, and I'm okay being seen." And here's where things get really interesting. Vulnerability is one of the most attractive qualities in a person, especially in a woman, when it comes from a place of wholeness. When you're open without being emotionally dependent, when you're honest about what you feel without asking someone else to carry it for you, it's magnetic. It hits differently because people feel it. They feel the truth in it. They feel the strength in it. But vulnerability without boundaries, that's not attraction. That's pressure. That's neediness. That's giving someone the responsibility to fix what only you can heal. And the moment your openness becomes someone else's job to manage, the dynamic shifts. You go from connection to caretaking. You go from intimacy to imbalance. So how do you walk that line? You lead with your heart without abandoning your self-respect. You share truthfully, but you're not looking for someone to complete the sentence for you. You might say something like, "Yeah, that was a hard chapter in my life," or "I'm still working on that," or "I've been afraid to trust again." And you say it calmly, with no shame, no theatrics, just honesty. That energy, that calm truth, that's what captivates someone, because it's not a cry for help, it's a declaration of strength. Think about it like this. Vulnerability is saying, "Here's where I've been," not "Here's why I need you to save me." It's the difference between an invitation and an expectation. One builds intimacy. The other creates emotional weight. And that's what most people don't understand. Men, in particular, respond deeply to that grounded vulnerability. When you can open up without spiraling, when you can express emotion without making it his responsibility to fix or carry, it creates trust. It makes him want to go deeper. Not because he's being pulled in, but because he's being let in. And you don't have to overexpose yourself to be vulnerable. Sometimes it's just being honest in real time, saying, "Hey, that actually made me feel a little uncomfortable," or "This matters more to me than I want to admit." It's those little honest moments said from a place of security that makes someone feel close to you. Not because you're emotionally fragile, but because you're emotionally real. Now, let's be clear. This doesn't mean you ignore your needs. It doesn't mean you suppress what hurts or pretend to be fine when you're not. No, it means you get to express your truth without expecting someone else to fix it for you. Because here's the truth. Emotionally mature people don't run from vulnerability. They rise to it, but only if they don't feel smothered by it. That's the balance. And when you master this, when you bring vulnerability with boundaries, it changes the entire dynamic of your relationships. You stop attracting people who want to rescue you, and you start drawing in people who want to know you. Not for what they can do for you, but for who you are right now, scars and all. There's this myth that the more you open up, the more someone will feel for you. But it's not how much you share. It's how you share. Right. A centered, calm woman who owns her past without drowning in it, who can speak her fears without asking for rescue, who feels deeply and holds herself through it. That's the kind of woman who stays in a man's mind. Because she doesn't just bring openness, she brings trust. Trust in herself. Trust in the process. Trust in her own ability to feel what she needs to feel and still stand tall. That kind of vulnerability, it doesn't beg. It doesn't cling. It breathes. And when you breathe, the right people want to breathe with you. So don't shut down what's real. Don't harden. And don't overshare just to create closeness. Speak your truth, hold your ground, and let your heart stay soft. Because real connection isn't built on perfection. It's built on honesty with yourself first. Let's get into something that doesn't get nearly enough credit when it comes to attraction: humor. Not the polished, stand-up comedy kind. Not sarcasm that hides insecurity. I'm talking about the kind of humor that makes someone feel good just being around you. The kind that's rooted in warmth, lightness, and presence. Because here's the truth. Life is hard. People are carrying way more than they let on. Deadlines, pressure, family stuff, self-doubt, uncertainty. It's all sitting right behind the smile. So when someone walks into your world and brings ease, laughter, and a sense of play, it's like an exhale you didn't know you needed. Humor is more than just being funny. It's a relief. It's medicine. It's human connection in its most relaxed, joyful form. And when it's real, when it's not forced or performative, it can be one of the most emotionally attractive qualities there is. And here's the part people miss. It doesn't matter if you're not naturally witty or the life of the party. You don't have to be a comedian to be magnetic. You just need the ability to not take everything so seriously, to roll with things, to laugh at yourself, to allow things to be light when the moment calls for it. Men especially find this incredibly disarming. You want to know why? Because most men, underneath whatever exterior they've built, are terrified of being judged. They're terrified of doing or saying the wrong thing. So when they're around someone who can just play a little, who laughs easily, who can joke without turning it into a competition or critique, it creates safety. It tells their nervous system, hey, you can relax here. And in that relaxation, that's where connection happens. When a woman can move through the world with a sense of humor, it sends a message without her even having to say a word. I've got a good relationship with life. That doesn't mean everything's perfect. It means she's flexible, resilient, not living in victim mode. And that energy, that mindset, it's magnetic because we've all been around someone who's heavy. Not just because they're going through something, but because they make everything feel like a burden. Every conversation turns into a complaint. Every joke is met with seriousness. Every moment of play is shut down with some reason why it's not appropriate. That kind of energy drains people. It doesn't connect, it repels. But then there are people who, even in hard moments, can find something to smile about. Who can crack a joke that lifts the energy just enough to keep going? And those people, they're not just fun, they're powerful because they're not ruled by the moment. They can lead it. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about using humor to deflect. That's not attractive. It's avoidance. We've all seen that too. The person who makes a joke every time things get real, who can't sit in a meaningful moment without trying to lighten it immediately. That's not what I'm talking about. That's fear pretending to be fun. Real, attractive humor isn't afraid of depth. It includes it. It knows when to laugh and when to lean in. It's that subtle confidence that says, I can handle life even when it's messy, and I don't have to be serious all the time to prove that I'm strong. Think about it like this. If emotional confidence is the foundation and vulnerability is the bridge, humor is the spark that lights everything up. It's what keeps things from getting too tight, too heavy, too fast. And that doesn't mean you have to entertain someone. Ben, it just means being willing to see the joy in ordinary moments, like teasing each other in a playful way, laughing about how weird dating can be, admitting that you messed something up and making a joke about it, or just letting a moment breathe without rushing to fill it with seriousness. It's these little flashes of levity that make people feel good around you, and people remember how you make them feel. That's the key. Most of the time, attraction doesn't live in the words you say, it lives in the experience you create. And if someone leaves your presence feeling lighter, even for a moment, that sticks with them. Because the truth is, laughter is a connector. It skips past the armor. It reaches the part of us that just wants to feel okay. And when you can give that to someone, not by being perfect or clever, but by being real, it draws them in, quietly but completely. So don't underestimate the power of being light, of being playful, of choosing joy even in the small things. You don't have to be a comedian. You just have to be present enough to catch life's funny moments and brave enough to laugh out loud. Because the most magnetic energy in the world is the kind that makes people feel like maybe, just maybe life isn't so heavy